Welcome to the Overflow Mindset Group. Hopefully, you're experiencing overflow in your life. So, overflow, like we mentioned, come in many different ways. Sometimes it's laughter, sometimes it's fun. So, when everyone's laughing at you because you are investing in PayPal, don't worry about it because it really is not about what you're investing in as much as it is what you get from what you invest in. Um, every position that someone has is not equal to someone else's position. Someone else may have entered the market, way up here, and now that it's down here, they're saying it was a bad investment. Now you can compare companies and say, okay, this company is better, it has a better CEO, it has better earnings, but it has better all these different things. But when you are either trading or investing in a stock for growth purposes, some of those things may not always have an impact on what you're doing. So someone who purchased PayPal in July is actually up, so that's why you have to decide what you want to do as far as all the stocks, all the different types of investment vehicles that are out there. Decide what you want to invest in, what you're interested in, what you feel you'll gain from. Don't worry about what other people think and what the analysts are saying on television and things like that. So as we look at PayPal, again, what we're looking at are these gaps that have occurred on the way down, and typically gaps are filled at some point. So besides the fact that we're establishing support down here, and we're starting to trade above the 50-day moving average, even though we're still underwater for this, but the idea is that we're expecting this price to continue to start to push upward, and eventually push much higher than that. But we're going to watch what price does here as we start to see it pushing upward. Again, someone who enters here and gets out, let's say here, has made a gain. That looks like about 20% gain. Well, let's just pull and see exactly what the gain would be from exactly where we are now, to this level. So we're looking at, roughly 25% gain just to get from here to here. And if that's the only trade you get out of this, understand that some people are going to talk bad about PayPal. Some people wouldn't touch the stock with the 10-foot pole, that sort of thing. Some people love it, and they're really invested and they're waiting for this overflow move to happen. And some people are just going to be in it for a short period, a short ride, But whatever it is, you have to decide what you're looking for and go for what you want. And again, discuss that with your advisors and determine what the best course of action is for you. But these are some of the things that are occurring in the market as we report it, sort of like reporting the news. So that's PayPal. And we will go ahead and take a look at some of the other stocks that we have here. Just looking at the daily charts for now. We'll start up here. Let's look at Ally. So Ally Bank has established some support here in this particular zone, this box zone that I have here. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. BlackRock, it had moved up out of the water above the 200-day moving average. Came back down, hit the 50-day moving average. Now it seems to be establishing some support there. We're at a good level here on our side where we would expect some movement to the upside as well. So hopefully this will carry through. We'll see what happens there. These are just a few other stocks we have here. Let's jump into the comeback story. So all these stocks we expect to be in the comeback story. So Apple already really made a comeback. So, at least once, the highs were here, early in 2021, 2022, early in 2022 at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And it did drop with the rest of the market, but it actually pushed all the way back up to very close to those same highs again. Now we're experiencing somewhat of a pullback based on where we are. Just now hitting the 200-day moving average, also looking at our RSI level, we would expect that this will start to turn up again. But what we would do at this point is draw a trend line. So again, we're looking at counter trend line breaks. We'll put it here. And this is the thing that you'll practice over and over, is drawing the trend lines, because you just sort of get a feel for where and how you should draw your trend lines. Normally we would be attaching 2 points on the chart, on the bars of the chart here, and establish some sort of trend line. I kind of drew this one freehand a bit, but it's fine. The idea is you want to get a general view of when things are breaking out. You could get really close in here and figure out exactly when things are breaking out and that sort of thing. Some people might use Fibonacci or something like that to measure this move and determine if it came down 50% or 61.8 or some other level and then turned around. But we'll just wait for it to turn around, and when it turns around, we'll look at that as an action point. So, all right, so that's what we're looking at for Apple. AMC. So AMC, this is a tricky one here because for this one, it would be more of the fundamentals of it. They established a new preferred shares called APE, and they're raising money there, and they still have the AMC shares. So it's kind of tough to say what exactly is happening with this particular company. But as long as they don't, fall off the face of the earth or, go ahead and file bankruptcy or something like that, we would expect that based on where we are currently, that we will start to see price move up again. As you see, once we hit these levels before, you saw some sort of reaction that moved price back up. So that's what we would really expect. It may come down a little bit more, and then start to move up, but that's what we would really expect to happen. So again, here you could draw a trend line, and we will just go ahead and do that, and we'll kind of just draw a generous sort of trend line. Again, this is just a guide. The trend line is really just a guide so that, as we look at this day to day, we don't have to try to reestablish what we were looking at before. We're just saying, hey, okay, I see this trend line here. I'm looking for a break of that trend line as we trade on the other side of that trend line, but that could be consolidation going sideways at the same time. But as we trade there, that's where we're going to have interest in what's going on and determine, okay, is this strong enough of a move that we think this is going to be an upward move, or are we oversold on RSI, and some other things like that. As we start to look at, are we underwater? How far are we underwater? Are we trading above the 50-day moving average? So we're going to look at all those different factors once it starts to cross over. Right now, it's moving to the downside, and until it's moving to the upside, it's still moving to the downside. But we are anticipating that reversal. AMD looks like it's establishing some sort of support right here. Again, looking at the RSI, it looks like we would expect it to start to move up some. So we'll see. We'll have to watch this one a bit. Again, we could draw another trend line here. Let's just do that. And we'll just draw this one this way. And we'll wait and see what happens. Amazon. So Amazon, Amazon's into everything, I guess. Looking at what's going on here I've actually drawn some Fibonacci levels on this last move, this move from here all the way up to here. We retrace back to the 76.8 level. We did a little bit of a push off from there. We come back down to the 61.8 level. So, that's kind of where we are right now. The anticipation is that now that we're trading above the 50-day moving average, at least we had been, and it looks like it's about to start trading above that again, that we would draw a trend line and see if it's going to break out and start going up in the upward direction. So again, we draw a trend line. You can be as generous with that as you like. Again, it's just a guide to give us an idea of where price is going, if it's still trending downward or if it's trending upward. And that's what it's really for. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. Otherwise, a trade is always really going in the current direction, which right now is down, until it's going up, until we see that breakout. All right. We won't talk about APE. Let's look at DraftKings. So again, this is another one where many people talk about you, probably for investing in DraftKings, or laugh if you tell them you invested in DraftKings. And especially if you invested here. But if you've invested here, anywhere at these low points, since about, May, June 15th was the day, where I think things started to really turn around for the overall market. But if you've started to invest anywhere there, you in profit, So, everything is relative to where you invest. Even when people buy houses, they always say, you make your money when you first purchase the house, at what price you purchased it at, because everything else is gonna be dictated by that, whether or not you're over, whether you're underwater or whether you are ahead of the game, depending on where you buy it. So again, if you bought down here and you sold up here, I mean, actually, let's look at what that percentage would have been. Let's see, from here to here. So look at that, 80% on DraftKings in a couple months, a few months. So that is what I'm talking about, is that opportunity presents itself at different times for different people, and we have to take advantage of that. So again, here when we were really high here on the RSI, we knew that would lead to some sort of sell-off. We saw that sell-off happen. Now we're down here in an area where we would expect there to be somewhat of a move to the upside for the price. So that's what we're going to look at. Again, DraftKings, even from here to here, we were saying would be 100%. If we remove this a bit, let's just let's give it, let's start here. So maybe 80% to get to this particular point here. But if we do experience more pullbacks, you really get into, again, 100% move, and we haven't even looked, haven't gotten anywhere near back to where the highs were. So you can imagine what this move really would look like if you have time to sit on this investment. Again, you have to do research on these and invest in things you're interested in. These are just things that I believe are going to be comeback stories. Everybody's going to be talking about them at some point and talking about the overall market. So here we go, Ford Motor Company. From this low here, we're saying that's about 100% gain. So far, we've been pushing up on that. We can kind of open this up a bit just to kind of keep track of where we are. I guess as far as this particular move, we are seeing support on the 50-day moving average is looking pretty good as far as the angle and the speed at which the price is actually moving. So we are starting to see a little bit of a push up, but we'll wait and see what actually happens here for Ford. But the anticipation is that we would continue up. We may get some consolidation or whatever, but we would continue up. General Motors, similar price action here. We can go down to a smaller time frame and start to see a little bit more of some of those trend line breaks that have occurred as it's starting to move up. Right? Meta. So looking at Meta has really been hit, but we have, again, this great big gap right here. So we expect this gap to fill at some point. So we sort of sit tight on Meta for now. We could draw some trend lines in here, but we really haven't seen a lot of movement above the 50-day moving average. We need to see more movement above the 50-day moving average in order to establish that it really is starting to move in an upward fashion. But we have this huge gap here that we'd expect to close at some point. Right. Mullen Automotive. So looking at Mullen Automotive, we just established this support. That's all we can really say about this. This is not a strong investment here, but again, everything depends on when you get into something. So if you drop down to lower time frames, you probably could catch the bottoms here of this, because it doesn't seem to have gone below this particular level here. So just something to take note of and understand what the risk might be. So Netflix, again, Netflix, never count Netflix out. Everybody's counting Netflix out based on all the competition, everything that's going on, that sort of thing. You really shouldn't count Netflix out. Netflix has been a staple for many years. They can be open to change. It sounds like they acquired some additional people in the company and that sort of thing. So it's something to really take a look at. And we do have these gaps that we expect to fill. This gap here and this gap up here. So as price is starting to show support above the 50-day moving average, we would expect that this will continue to ride out. How long this will take, we're not really sure, but the idea is that this movement will eventually happen. Again, we're looking at, if it were to go back to the highs, the previous highs, it would be 300% gain. And again, largely we're looking at a lot of these stocks because they came down with the overall market, and we expect them to go back up with the overall market. It won't always be based on their own individual performance. Some of this will be based on the movement of the overall market. Some things may never come back, of course, but many things will be based on the movement of the overall market. Looking at NEO. NEO is not taking well to the 50-day moving average so far, so we are starting to see some movement to the downside. for Neo. So we'll have to see if it can establish any sort of level of support, and make sure that it doesn't go below these lows here. So below 11 or $12 pretty much, not go below that. All right, Nvidia. This is another one. So here you could draw a trend line on this one. Let's just draw some sort of trend line here. We'll draw it like that. And the main thing we're noticing here is how low the RSI is right now. So the anticipation here is that we would get some kind of reaction that will kind of show some level of support. And then if we could get above the 50-day moving average, or even the 14-day moving average, at least it will show that there's some support occurring at that particular point. So we'll watch and see if we get some sort of trend line break that's something other than consolidation, but some sort of trend line break that indicates with some force that it might be going to the upside. All right, PayPal we talked about. Roblox. So Roblox, everybody, well, kids love this, I guess, but everybody talks about this because this, I believe, is one of the companies that Nancy Pelosi's husband invested in. So folks are watching this right now. We've been watching it kind of go down for a while. Now it's starting to show a bit of support and peeped out of the water here, the 200-day moving average. But we're still underwater overall, but we are starting to see some support on that 50-day moving average, and it looks like it's about to go up again. Based on RSI, it should come up above that 50-day moving average, and the question is, well, how does it behave once it gets above that level? So we will watch that. Let's go ahead and put a trend line on it, like this, and we'll see what happens. Then we have SoFi. So SoFi, again, the main move for SoFi is it's getting close to being close to zero, right? So again, just having fun with that. But the idea here is that the lower it goes, the bigger opportunity is for a comeback. So, and we were looking at the $6 to $4 level and looking at the $2 level. And right now it seems to be establishing really above the $5 level, I guess, is what it seems to be establishing and floating around that $6 level right now. So that may be it. I don't know if it would take a quick dip down and then kind of take off, but it is establishing a floor really around this level at this particular point. So other than that, we could start to draw some trend lines. Instead of trend lines before, the trend was down and our counter trend lines were to the upside. Now the trend we're anticipating would be an uptrend, so we'll just draw our counter trend lines to the downside and we'll give that some room there. But that's kind of where we are with that. If this shows some forcing moving above that, we expect it to start to trend to the upside. If not, if it doesn't really go with any force above that, then the lower it goes, the bigger the opportunity. So, but again, talk to your investment advisors about this, and so you'll make the best decision for you. All right, Square. So looking at Square here, Square has been moving to the downside for the most part. We've shown a little bit of movement to the upside here, but then that just resulted in an equal move to the downside. Based on where our RSI is at, we would expect to see some support and a move up at this particular point, but we have to see how strong that move is going to be. We need to see more price action moving in an upward fashion, not just one move up and then one move down, that sort of thing. So we'll have to watch this one to see. It does seem to establish some sort of floor here, so we will have to watch that one. Upstart. So Upstart is here, and really just seeing a lot of sideways action here. It seems to establish a floor though, but a lot of sideways action. So we'll have to just watch this one. I don't have any particular opinion about this at this time. Right now, the number one thing is that it's below the 50-day moving average, which is a no-go anyway. But we'll continue to watch this if this is capable of making any kind of move. All right. And I guess we're going to conclude there. There are several other areas that we could get into, like alternative energy, EV, fuel cell, and some of these other battery companies, that sort of thing, or charging companies and that sort of thing. So, but we'll maybe watch those or talk about those in in another video. So, but anyway, thanks for joining and listening, and Overflow.